This video will be dedicated to all you beginners out there, and this is going to be taken from a real world experience that literally just happened today on the way home from the gym. I took a call from a guy named Albert. Now Albert had a question for me. Albert wanted to know because he's struggling with pricing, something that every beginner struggles with. But that's not the purpose of the video. The purpose of the video is about asking better questions. So you've got good questions, you've got bad questions, you've got great questions. So I will default to one of my favorite quotes by Tony Robbins, which is this: the quality of your life will largely be determined by the quality of your questions. Now, at a casual observation, that may not make sense instantly. I have leaned into this because I know that this is so true. And unfortunately, with the world of technology, that this is getting eroded away further and further. What do I mean by this? Well, for example, there's an acronym called TLDR. Too long, didn't read. In this case, it would be TLDW. Too long, didn't watch, Darren, because you drone on for too much. Well, if that's you, two things. First off, you've come to the wrong channel. Secondly, good luck with life. Because really, if you want the answers in life to provide the solutions in life that you need, you're never going to get those in a headline or bullet points or a meme or emoticons. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to do your due diligence and take the time to learn. How do you learn how to ask better questions? Well, largely it depends on what kind of information you want. Often we're so ignorant or we're so much of a beginner, we're not asking the right questions, which is part of my unique value proposition with my course, which is, hey, you're a beginner, you're not even going to know the right questions to be asking. Now, the people selling you courses like myself, we will lead you on a path that serves our agenda. Okay, now I say our as in I'm including myself, but really I'm excluding myself because I put myself in your position. I remember what it was like to be a beginner. I remember not knowing the right questions to ask. I remember asking all those what I consider good questions and being delivered what those people thought were good answers for me. But now reflecting back on those, I realized first off, I was asking the wrong person who was therefore delivering me the wrong answers. But I was a beginner. Once again, I didn't know enough to know what the right answers were or what the right questions were that I should be asking. What does this possibly have to do with you, beginner guy or girl? Well, this. For example, I'm going to assume that you either want to start your own detailing business or you've currently started your own detailing business. Now, if you've been at your own detailing business for a number of years, yes, you too will learn something from this moment. And it has to do with asking questions. And I've reduced most detailers into three categories: most, some, and none. Allow me to explain. Most will not ask, some will ask, and none will ask the right question. What are you even talking about, Darren? Okay, play along with me. You have a business. You, I assume, want to make your customer happy. Why would you want to make your customer happy? Well, so you can get paid. And that's where things tend to stop right there. You perform a detail. It could be on a first-time customer or it could be on a regular customer. And you bring them out and you do your final inspection and they seem to be pretty happy. So happy, in fact, that they pay you the money that you agreed to charge them in advance. So you drive away and think, oh, I did a great job. It's like, well, guess what? There's probably plenty of other guys or girls in your local area that are willing to do a great job. But how do you know if you did a great job? Maybe you only did a good job. Maybe you only did a good enough job so that your customer doesn't have to go looking for somebody else in the moment because you're good enough. Well, what if good enough isn't really good enough? Because the next guy that comes in who represents your competition and they do a good job, but they do it for slightly less. And now you've lost a customer and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't see that coming. And guess what? You won't see that coming in most cases. You know why? Because you're not asking the one question that most of you are afraid to ask, which is, I'll start here. Hey, Johnny customer, how am I doing as a detailer? Now that's a good question. And for many of you, you would say that that's a redundant question because your customer would not be paying you if you didn't do a good job. Or your customer would not be bringing you back if you weren't performing good enough. But once again, to come back around, it's like, do you really just want to be good enough? I am of the opinion that I don't want to ever be good enough. I want to be great enough. I want to be superior enough. I want to be exceptional enough. Okay, what does that mean in the context of a detailing business? I've reduced that to two categories. So one, you have the physical detailing skills. How well can you detail a car? The second is what I call the customer experience. That will start at your first initial contact with a person and it will end as you drive away with money in your pocket. But there are about 100 steps in between point A and point B. That's called the customer experience. That is where you can really distinguish, differentiate yourself between you and your competition. But how do you do this? Okay, you have the obvious, like, oh, well, I'm going to improve my skills. I'm going to continue to develop my product knowledge. Maybe I'm going to figure out better products to use that will produce better results. It's like, yeah, but those are all have to do with the detail, what I call the detail sequence, which of course is important. And you could simplify the moment by saying, well, that's what the customer's paying for. It's like, yes, in simple terms, but in less simple terms, as part of the bigger picture, your customer's also paying for the customer experience. What kind of experience are you delivering as a professional that includes every aspect of your business, every aspect of how you conduct yourself as a professional, how you conduct business in detailing your car, their car, and how you actually detail their car. So that's the bigger picture, which to bring full circle back to you asking good questions, which I suspect, if you're like me at the beginning, I was afraid to ask a question like that. I would just roll away assuming, okay, they seemed happy, they paid me, so they must be happy enough, but hell no, do I want to ask them how good I did? Like, how would you rate me? You know, like nowadays with technology, they can rate you on places like Yelp or Google reviews. They'll give you like a 1-star or a 5-star. But what if you get a 3-star and you think, wait a minute, why did they give me a 3-star? I did a superior detail job. Well, did you? Because if you were just to ask them, hey, how good was I at detailing your car? And they could say, well, Darren, you nailed it. You hit it out of the park, 5 stars. But now I come back in and I say, how was the overall experience in working with me as a detailing professional? Now that's an entirely different question because you may do a superior detail job, but you may actually suck as a person or as a business owner. You might be less than friendly. You might have poor communication skills. You might have poor presentation skills. You may not be punctual. You may keep a very sloppy working area. You might be smoking, taking your smoking breaks around their car while you're working. You might be playing your music too loudly while you're working on their car. You might be blocking the driveway of their neighbor's house and now their neighbor's getting on them because their damn detailer is blocking the driveway and you don't even know about it. So that's what I mean about the customer experience, which leads me to this because I want to provide a solution for you, beginner guy or girl, or you non-beginner guy or girl who's been at it and you have been afraid to ask your customer these questions. Because if you're really dedicated on delivering a superior experience, and I mean an overall experience, because by the way, you will be replaceable. I don't care how good your detail job is. For example, I would replace you. You know why? Because I'm going to deliver the full experience from start to finish, including the detail process itself. And there's some guy or girl around the corner that can do the same for you if you are falling short with the entire experience. So, what is that question? Well, I'm glad you asked, even though you didn't. I have mapped this question out very strategically, very precisely. You can find it in the description box below. You can use this question yourself to ask your customer. But I'm not going to stop there, because this is where I embrace technology. Now, I consider texting a love-hate relationship. I love it because it's convenient. I love it because, well, let's just stop there. Mostly I hate it. It's what I call two-dimensional communication. So much is lost in the written form only, specifically and especially when it comes to texting, because we get lazy. Our poor little thumbs are overworked and we tend to take shortcuts. We don't review the text before we send it. We don't correct for typos. We rely on autocorrect. It's just an accident waiting to happen, which leads to miscommunication. So, first off, look in the description box. You will see a template there that you can edit based on your personality. I wrote it in a way that I don't think any of you will have to edit, if in fact you want to deliver a superior experience. Now, the next stage is, how do you do this? Do you do it face to face? Because 20 plus years ago, before we had smartphones, I had to ask these difficult questions to my customers in person, face to face, what I call three-dimensional communication. Now, I was selective at doing it because I could tell some of my customers were what I label as non-confrontational. They don't like confrontation. Not that I'm being the default confrontational, as in I'm trying to be provocative in a bad way, but I'm confronting them. I could catch them off guard, and that question would catch them off guard. So I had the ability, and I learned the ability to how to ask in a way that was very diplomatic, that could calm their nerves, and that's a video for a different time. But in this moment, because we have technology, you do have texting, you can text your customer. And this solves a few problems. One, you send a text that's deliberate to your customer and you ask a better question. It's not a generic question, it's a specific question that you can find down there. Secondly, it allows your customer to engage when it's convenient for them. It also allows them to engage once they've thought about the question, because the question, and I'm not going to read it verbatim right now, but in essence what you're asking is, what is the one thing I could do as a detailer that would improve my overall experience with you as my customer? So that is very deliberate and very precise, and you're only asking for one thing. Now, what I found when I asked my customers, most of them were stumped. They would stand there and say, well, nothing. Like, you do a great job, Darren. And I said, no, I accept that. And thank you, by the way. But I mean, there's probably something. It could be me arriving 5 minutes early. You might live such a tight schedule that you don't like me arriving 5 minutes early. Now, you certainly wouldn't want me to arrive late, and I would never do that. But you may say, you know what, Darren? Typically when you come, it's in the morning, and I've just gotten out of the shower, and I allocate a certain amount of time to get everything done before you arrive. So yes, that 5 minutes, I appreciate your punctuality, but I would actually prefer this. Now, many of you would say, oh my God, that's so trivial. Like, are you kidding me? Then I would just respond, well, guess what? It's your customer. You're not in their head. If you're trying to have a transaction with them, which you are, because business is transactional, you are providing detailing services in exchange for your money, so therefore you are working for them. You will never be inside their head. You will never know what their little pressure points are, their little pain points, their little pet peeves. Maybe they don't like listening to your music as you've got it blaring in the neighborhood. Maybe their neighbors don't like it. Maybe they literally don't like where you park because you have now blocked the trash cans, and then the trash guy has to get out of his trash truck in order to get the trash cans because you show up on a Tuesday, which is trash day. Or maybe you show up on Wednesday, which is gardening days, and now you've taken up too much of the area. I could go on, but the point is you're never going to be inside your customer's head. Therefore, you need to ask a better question. You need to be specific so that you can get the right information from them. Like, okay, cool. I want to be good. Then I want to be better. And then I want to become the best. But I don't know what the best is unless I know what my customer thinks is the best. And that will be different from person to person to person, which means if you want to be literal about it, which I think you should be, you're going to have to ask each one of your customers. Now, you don't have to ask every one of them per se, but because you can take a consensus. So let's say you ask 10 of the customers and you see a theme. Like, oh, Darren, it really irritates me because you're late. Or Darren, it really irritates me because fill in the blank. Point is with texting now, and that's one of probably the third layer of benefit, is that they would be willing to say stuff in a text that they probably would be unwilling to say to your face. And that goes into the non-confrontational type of personality. One of the beauties of texting. So you reach out to them, you send them a text, they can respond when it's convenient, they have time to think about it, and they would be more likely to say things, and by say things, I mean to be more candid and honest with you, because that's really the information you're after if you really want to deliver a superior or an exceptional overall customer experience. And I will end there. If you are interested in learning how to ask better questions, especially as a beginner looking to start your own detailing business, then you can also look in the description box below where it will take you to my website, detailvault.com, and you can sign up to be put on the wait list for when I release my Smart Startup course. Okay, I will see you in the next video.